this era all day. Hell yeah.
Arm wrestling's about to take place.
Yeah. So we got March 27th. We got the King of Table 3 going down. We got you going up against RVJ. And I know the beef is for real with this one. So I just need to be caught up on all this. How did this all start?
Oh, man. As you say, it's real. There's no acting from myself nor Rob in this one. There is a genuine dislike. I respect him as an arm wrestler. I don't like him as a man. That's just the way it is. I mean, the story, how long you got, Paul? I don't know, man. There's so much backstory on this. Like, if I try to get it right and I try to go back to the beginning, I'm sure RVJ's got a very different version of this. But take from it what you will. As you know, like you said, this I think this stems from me pissing off arm wrestlers in general. The whole he doesn't deserve a match thing. I think RVJ has been sitting on the sidelines being one of those guys that I pissed off in general for a long time. So straight away, before I'd even had an interaction with him, I think I'd already been pissing him off. Where I really started to piss him off was when the WAL posted a picture of Rob on their Instagram, and it said, "Who should face Rob in the next season of middleweight battles?" And I got tagged by a bunch of people. I'd beaten Alan Guerra. I'd beaten Dallas Langston, and I'd had a good showing where I beat Daniel Mosier, albeit not in a fresh situation. I'd beaten Daniel Mosier. So enough people were interested in seeing me. And so I was getting these notifications on Instagram, tag, saying I should face Rob. And that made me happy. I'm like, oh, look at that. The fans think I'm ready for Rob. Sweet. And I put out a post, I can't remember, on YouTube, whatever, where I just said exactly that. I said, look, been tagged. Thank you so much. WAL, just know that, yeah, I'm ready. You want me? I'm ready. And I think that was where it started. That pissed off Rob to some degree. That Rob then started looking at everything I did. And the first thing that I did that he then tried to bark at me to say, "You shit, you're nobody," was me doing some curls. I did some curls, and we all know Rob's the fucking king of curls. He's got massive biceps. The dude can out curl almost anyone. He's probably in the world record level if he was to go and do a strict curl one arm for his weight. But anyway, so he's picking apart my shitty form curls, and I'm just biting back with him, and I'm just like, I just keep on doing stuff. He does a lift, I do the lift, and I say, "Hey, Rob, can you do this side pressure lift?" But you can't do that one, and I just prodding him with stuff like that. And as you know, Rob's an emotional man. He's very easy to get under the skin of, and he just really it just meltdown city for Rob. And I'm someone, as you know, when I talked earlier in this video, I like to throw myself into the deep end. It's how I grow best. I did with Justin. I did with Bottom 8. I did when I was a kid at tennis. I always want to take on the guys that are better than me, so I grow faster. So I'm not scared of Rob. I'm like, yeah, that's cool. I would happily pull you, Rob. And when people then say to me, like, "Well, do you believe you'll beat Rob?" And I'm like, there's a way. Yeah, there's a possibility. And I don't care how small that possibility is. I'm freaking ready to have a crack at it. And heaven forbid I might hit it. So the fact that I refuse to say that I have no chance against Rob pissed Rob off, and it pissed people off. And so in an arm wrestling sense, that's where it began. They then got messy with trying to organize a match and all this kind of nonsense, talking about steroids, talking about not steroids.
How did that was I wanted to know, how did the $50,000 match come about? Like, what was that about? Where was the money coming from? And what was
the $50,000 match was a catchphrase of Rob's that he would bet personal money of $50,000 against anyone who could test clean for 12 months. Because I asked, Rob was like, "I'm never having a match with Ryan. He's not good enough, yada, yada, yada." And this $50,000 thing of Rob's was something that had been universal to an offer to all arm wrestlers. I know he'd even mentioned it to Devin Larratt in the past. And Devin Larratt was like, "I reckon I could take that." And it was at the same weight and testing clean for 12 months was Rob's thing. And this was all on the back of, like I said, all the momentum of the curl videos and all this kind of nonsense that was going on. And when he said that $50,000 thing, my business brain just started going. I'm just like, could I raise 50 grand? Could I raise 50 grand for an event? And I'm doing the math on what I could invest from my business money and from my own personal money and all this kind of stuff. And I'm trying to think, okay, how could it possibly work? And I reach out to Rob and be like, hey, and I got Neil Pickup involved to be the intermediary between us. So that this was real. And Neil Pickup got on the phone with us and we talked about this and said, hey, look, here's how I could potentially do it. And I'm not sure I can get to 50, but I said I could guarantee you straight off the bat a $20K budget. I've got a $20K budget right now that I'll sign, committed to this event. And Rob also, we talked about the whole testing thing. And I said to him, look, I've been on gear. All right. Just so you're aware, I've been on gear. And so I can't do this 12-month thing that you wanted. And he was like, yeah, cool, whatever. All right, that's fine. We'll make an exception. We won't make it about that. Where it fell apart was the 20K. Rob wanted all of it. And I said, no, you can't have all of it. I need to get to Dubai. I need to still be able to have a portion of that as my appearance fee as well. You can have 10 of it off the bat, and then the remaining 10, let's negotiate on a 2.5 appearance fee, a 2.5 appearance fee, and let's fight for the remaining 5 or something like that, whatever the ratios were. Rob disagreed. I disagreed. And it then blew up all and just stopped being negotiated. And it was perceived that the reason for it being stopped was because I'd made an admission that I'd been on gear at some point in time. And that's not the case at all. The disagreement was over the 20K, how it was going to be allocated. I was going to attempt to raise it all the way to 50. We were starting with 20, all from my business. And that's where the disagreement was. The being on gear thing was nothing. Rob was, like I said, I made Rob aware because I didn't want him to think that I was going to be saying, let's do this testing thing. He was like, yeah, cool. I respect you for telling me that. Thank you for telling me that. He said, don't let it go public or anything like that. And I did talk about it publicly that I'd been on gear. And then he took that and went crazy with it. And that's where I lost my respect for him. Was I personally think that he's just a loose cannon who just talks shit without getting any actual facts correct. And his his fans who love him, they think that he's preaching the truth just because look at that, it's Travis. Just because RVJ is speaking passionately doesn't mean he's right. And he was very wrong in what he said about me in many instances. And that's been the real seed of why, for me anyway, there is a disrespect to him and the way he acts. But as an arm wrestler, yeah, the dude's been in it for 18 years. He's achieved things way above what I've achieved, but that doesn't mean I can't beat him come March 27. So
now,
that's where I'm at.
As far as March 27th goes, is there anything set up with steroid testing?
No. Core Sports has been very clear that it's not to be an issue, it's not to be talked about. So no, there's no. Rob doesn't need that, and it's not going to be really talked about. I don't know. I've even heard Rob saying that he's considering getting on gear for this match. I'm like, imagine that if I'm the reason that Rob gets on gear for the first time. I think that's pretty funny that he's that scared of me and the straps. That he's talking about doing that. The amount of excuses I've heard from Rob already, it's phenomenal. He's preloading excuses left, right, and center for a dude that he says he's not worried about. So it's funny.
So let me ask you, Ryan, do you consider this match, do you consider yourself confident going into this, or do you feel like this is one of those where you're reaching real high and you don't know if you're going to...
I'm reaching. I don't deny that for a moment. I'm reaching. I've reached all the time. Literally, my entire career as an arm wrestler. As an athlete, I've been reaching. I always reach up.
Is this your biggest reach?
Let me think. This would be, to me, this is equivalent to the Justin reach. Where I was at in the sport when I pulled Justin. Justin had beaten Giannis and everyone at that stage. That was a pretty big reach. And I lost 6-0, but I lost respectably. I took his hand and wrist and I got stops and I was in the fight. But yeah, I lost. I think this is an equivalent level reach given where I'm at now. I think Rob's achievements are greater than Justin's. By a long, I mean, Rob's got victories over Marcio, for instance. But this is at 210 pounds. This is at middleweight. I don't think the gap is as big as people think it is, or as Rob would potentially convey it to be. A lot of people think
have
this
you guys
is
agreed on the 210 cap, that there's a cap at 210?
I haven't spoken to Rob personally about this match at all. Outside of when a very brief conversation when he released the information of this match prematurely. I haven't spoken to him. So I don't know if he's happy with the 210. I just know Core Sports is happy with the 210. And they're setting the rules at the end of the day. So 210, and that to me makes sense. Where Rob's the WAL middleweight hammer holder. I'm a middleweight. It doesn't, to me, it makes sense for us to be middleweights. It doesn't make sense for us to be blown up versions of ourselves. So 210 pounds is where I believe it'll be. And so I think Rob's going to have to cut down. I think he's a bit fat at the moment. He's been eating too many donuts or whatever. Relaxing a bit too much. I think he needs to get trim. He's got 2 months to get down to 210. I'm sitting at 210 right now. So I'm gonna do the opposite. I'm gonna get strong and healthy. I'm gonna add maybe 5 to 8 pounds and then water cut that 5 to 8 pounds off for the event.
Have you guys discussed on a rule set or anything?
Oh, I know what the rule sets are. I haven't discussed with Rob, but man, I've seen Rob complaining about the rule sets. Like, it's funny. It's so funny. And I chatted with John about this, and John was laughing his head off. And he's like, man, I cannot believe RVJ right now. Because if you recall, when John was taking on Devin, John was talking about how the king of the table rules and that auto strap is a big advantage to Devin. He was like, well, you can't beat me out of straps. So you're bloody lucky that these are the rules. And RVJ was super critical of John. He was talking down on John for saying he wants the rules amended to give him a chance and that he should just man up and arm wrestle. And then just a couple of weeks later, literally, Rob signs this deal with King of the Table to pull me. And all of a sudden it clicks with him that, oh shit, he has to, if I just chalk up for a while and don't end up starting with him outside the straps, it goes to straps automatically. And he says in his own live video that I'm not going to let anyone push me around. I'm going to talk to King of the Table and I'm going to get the rules changed. And I'm like, what the hell is this? You literally just had to go at the goat for this. And now you're doing the same thing. I can't believe that he was doing that. And John said so much of it. He said, I know how bad the sticking point is that you have, Ryan, in the straps. And he said, I want to be the commentator for this match, because if Rob hits that sticking point and he can't get through it, I'm going to have the best time commentating that because John's pissed off at Rob for what Rob had to say about John. And John said, if Rob beats you, I'm stepping in next against Rob and I'm going to kick his ass. So
wow.
So the rules, Rob's been a real bitch about it. He wants the rules changed. He's trying to reverse engineer it, saying that I'm being a bitch because I'm scared to just pull him. No, Rob, we signed King of the Table. I'm going to use every rule to my advantage. And those rules are, after 30 seconds, we get the straps. And I'm even going to get a riser out.
I was just about to ask you about that. I just seen you posting about the riser, and I was a little confused knowing that you are a lot taller. But
I'm doing it purely to piss Rob off. I don't need a riser. I'm a good arm wrestler without a riser. I've never used a riser before, but knowing how much it pisses Rob off, I'm using the riser. So get ready, Rob. I'm coming on a riser. Round 1, I will be standing on a riser, and it's going to get under your skin. I hope you can not implode, because to be honest, Rob's probably going to beat himself before now in the match. At the end of the day, Rob's mind is his worst freaking enemy to himself. So he's coming against me. Look, Rob just wants it to be an arm wrestling match. He's begging me to just grip him outside of straps and be really polite and say, ready, go. He's begging me to do that because, look, let's be honest, that's a victory for him. If I did that, it's a victory for him. But this is a sport with a certain set of guidelines. And I'm going to go all the way over to this edge, and I'm going to go all the way over to that edge, and I'm going to use every one of those guidelines to the maximum capacity. If that means pushing the limits of the rules, I will. It's 6 rounds, Rob, and I will use every one of those rules, which includes straps, which includes risers, which include running fouls, includes all those things. So hope you can get through it, Rob.
What I love about this is all the mental games going back and forth between you guys. Like it's already started the match. It's already going.
I didn't even have to do much. Rob is already imploding. I'm actually not really watching much of what Rob's doing. I don't need to say anything. I think Rob wants me to. Rob's hoping for delusional Ryan Bowen to come out and say that he thinks he's going to destroy Rob. No, I don't need to say that. Literally, I know what Rob's weaknesses are. I've got a very well prepared plan to execute on that. It includes all the things I just said. And Rob is imploding, seeing that he's just there's so much pressure on him from himself that Rob's going to take care of most of the work for me. I just need to turn up and clean up the scraps. And if I'm strong enough, I'll win. But the plan and the execution of it, man, he's going to struggle. He's going to struggle to keep up with that side. Like I said, he's imploding already.
Do you have anybody that you train with specifically by you that could replicate his style or is similar in style to Rob?
In terms of style, there's a gentleman named Sam Burnett. He's our 80 kilo rank 1 arm wrestler in Australia. Albeit he is smaller and not as strong as Rob, he has a very large hand, very broad hand. He's got amazing biceps on him. He's got 18-inch biceps and he's only 80 kilos. He's huge. His style is very similar. So I'm training with him. Like I said, I ramped down my pressures because I'm able to beat Sam fairly comfortably. But I go searching for my counters and whatnot often against Sam. I've then got Lachlan Adair, who on a power level, I believe is up there at the same level in terms of his bicep strength and his wrist flexion in particular, because I see those two things as the lead weapons of Rob, bicep and wrist flexion. So I train with Lachlan to get strong. I train with Sam to refine. And then it's just me and my gym for the rest of the time.
Very nice. Now, I wanted to bring up Lachlan. He just had that big match against Todd Zilla and all. And what do you have up for Lachlan next? What do you see him going next? Is there any big matches coming his way? I know he's competing in a tournament in April.
Yeah, April, there will be a tournament in the Oceanic region that will be for $10,000 the winner. So he will be there. Mataura Rangi, Heta Morris from New Zealand will be there. Ben Carroll will be there. Ryan Milton Scott. Everyone from Oceanic's best will be there. And it's open to internationals as well. So I know even people like Ryan Espy has indicated that he's going to come. So I don't know who else may turn up, but it's going to be a quality field. So a tournament for Lachlan is good. Super matches wise, I believe he wants to face Ben Carroll and Mataura Rangi just to shore up the number 1 rank in the Oceanic region. But realistically, I'm pleased in a sense that Lachlan was defeated in the way that he was defeated by Todd. I think that Lachlan's dominance in Oceania was so significant that he was potentially going to run out of motivation or run out of things to chase. Todd's given him something to chase now. He's made Lachlan feel things and identify areas of his own game that he can improve that he wouldn't have been aware of otherwise. Lachlan in a fundamental strength is incredibly strong. Even by Todd's admission, he said Lachlan's stronger than he is in a number of fundamentals. But it was still such a dominant victory to Todd, and it was achieved through side pressure and conditioning of the elbow and wrist just strength and in supination and nothing that Lachlan could do could change that. And so I think with Lachlan having felt that, I think Lachlan will now walk away with a great plan of action of going, okay, I felt what I'm missing. I've got these things to work on. So I think Lachlan will level up considerably over the next 6 to 12 months because of what happened with Todd.
The reason why I'm bringing up Lachlan is because it's a little chatter going back and forth with him and Big Corey West. So, it definitely caught my attention. It wasn't until after the super match that, I was catching up on my YouTube and, I saw the Neil Pickup interview, and I had no idea before their match, this was going on. So I was like, oh, wow, I didn't know he said that, so, I got Lachlan on and I had to confront that and kind of question it. Yep. I actually have Corey coming on tomorrow to, give his version of everything. How would you feel about them two ripping up?
Honestly, I think it'd probably be a ripper of a match. I think that they're very similar. They're very similar in time in the sport. I think they're both at 6 years, 5 years, 6 years. They're both physical they're physical monsters, both of them. You've met them both. Obviously, they're enormously strong humans, and they're both hungry equally. So, and they both lost to Toddzilla. So, it makes a lot of sense, that match. It'd be a great match, challenging for both. I think it could go either way on that one, based on what I've seen so far.
Yeah, it
Love
definitely caught my interest, and I'm definitely pushing at both of them and seeing if we can maybe make something happen in the future.